Alright viewers, we've decided to do a daily space weather supplemental video here. Because we see additional coronal mass ejections, we came off a state of geomagnetic unrest. We see a coronal hole high-speed wind stream. A bunch of filamentary activity on the sun despite it ramping down to pretty low levels of activity here, especially on the Earth-facing side. Look at all the filaments on the eastern limb down there. And don't be surprised to see even more coronal mass ejections by the time we do tomorrow's daily space weather video. So you can see all of these filaments down here. The main ejecta that we saw was on the opposite side of the sun. So let's bring up a frame of that. And here you can see on the stereo A coronagraph, which is located, by the way, at Lagrange point 5. On the stereo A coronagraph, you can see this coronal mass ejection kicking off, mainly on the far side, but there is some Earth-facing ejecta too. And this is the difference image, and you can see some ejecta headed out in this Earth-facing direction. And that ejection happened at about 1500 yesterday on the 5th universal time. And again, don't be surprised to see more ejecta on the Earth side. There's a huge plume of plasma in between the Earth and the sun right now. Also a coronal hole high-speed wind stream hitting at the same time. So here's the current state of affairs over the past 24 hours in terms of the real-time solar wind. And we did indeed see the solar wind peak in its density right there, and then the density ramped down and the speed peaked up, which it looks like we may have just seen the peak of that. So the density made it up to about 50 protons per cubic centimeter, and the speed made it up to just under 500 kilometers a second there, and that's enough to spark up some additional auroras and lots of pressure in the magnetosphere. And we did see geomagnetic unrest for a brief period. We're expecting this to be up to KP5 here as a result of both the coronal mass ejection and a coronal hole wind stream striking at the same time. So here are the geospace magnetosphere movies, and you'll see this moment of increased pressure. We'll show you the velocity, the density, and the pressure in this daily space weather supplemental. And this will actually be a YouTube exclusive, by the way. Here's the density. We're expecting the density to drop down here, actually. Again, having reached all the way up to 50 protons per cubic centimeter there for a brief moment, and create a brief moment of geomagnetic unrest. This image shows you low density in white and high density in dark blue. Some oddities there, and here's the pressure. We'll let that play all the way through before I show you the aurora forecast and ground magnetic perturbations. And that's 4 hours of data there. Keep in mind, this is a model. It's all based on the space weather modeling framework. You can read about this on this page. If you click on the details tab there, there's a link to information about the space weather modeling framework. Here are ground magnetic perturbations. We're looking at the poles first. And we see some significant effects on the Earth's B field. In other words, delta B changes in the Earth's B field. Significant magnetic pulses there coming out of both poles. And some pretty decent auroras there over places like Finland, it looks like. Here are the magnetic perturbations from a different view here. So some major, it looks like Iceland would have seen some major auroras. Don't be surprised to see some photographs tomorrow. Should be a great night for auroras. And the main pressure was around this time here, around 4 o'clock Universal Time. Again, very major auroras over, especially Iceland there. So here's the forecast for that. There you can see that ramp up in the solar wind speed represented in the aurora forecast. So we haven't seen any spikes in the proton flux here, no X-ray flares. Some major perturbations in the GOES magnetometers there, no surprise there, as there's significant plasma. And expect this coronal hole wind stream to last a while. Again, having seen the density go all the way up to nearly 50 protons per cubic centimeter. Again, here's the stereo A coronagraph difference imagery. And you can see that non-Earth facing coronal mass ejection on this side, as well as some Earth facing ejecta on this side as well. So there is some missing data if you're looking for it, folks. We did what we could. Here's some more images of the local yellow dwarf. And that's the colorized magnetogram at 171 angstroms. Don't forget to check out our playlists. Press like and subscribe. We'll be doing the daily space weather once again tomorrow morning. This has been a daily space weather supplemental, and I've been your host, Dan, aka smAsho. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.